Hey, this is Gen X Amplified, episode number 14. Okay, so you need to get your pen and paper ready because on today's show, we are going to talk about how to dominate and grow your business through the power of webinars. So, are you ready? Let's do it.
There's people out there with big databases looking for things to promote that are good products, that are solid presenter, that's someone who's going to deliver to their customers and pay them a percentage of the sales, and they'll promote you every day of the week.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the show we call Gen X Amplified. And again, I'm your host, Adrian Porter, and I'm excited. Starting to get some international flavor on the show, which is exciting because my guest today, he is a gifted speaker, entrepreneur, software developer, and he is internationally known as the Make Money with Webinars expert. See, now that's something that's always good to chat about, making money through his company, 10X Effect. That's Effect with an E. He trains thousands of people to leverage the power of webinars and social media to generate more cash flow for their businesses. Please welcome another Gen Exceptional guest, Stephen Essa. Stephen, what's going on, man?
Hey, Adrian. Thanks for having me on, mate. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the interview.
Likewise. I'm really excited about chatting with you. And now you are currently in Sydney. Is that correct? Sydney, Australia?
No, I was born in Sydney, but I live on the Gold Coast now, which is just a little bit warmer. But currently I'm in France. We're on our European holiday. My wife and I always go overseas for 2, 3 or 4 months to visit her family. She's from Europe, so we've been island hopping around the Greek islands during this financial crisis, which was a bit of a worry. We're not sure if we could get money out of the ATMs, but everything was good. And we headed over to Cyprus, and now we're in France before we go to London and back home. So we're in Europe at the moment, having a good time.
Okay, so see now, my audience. So Stephen is already just starting to like rub it in, right? So, I'm excited about being here. I'm enjoying this nice weather in Georgia, and he's hopping around in France at the Gold Coast on the vacation. So, I envy you, but I'm happy for you.
Thanks, big buddy. Yeah, we don't have kids yet, so we're lucky.
Oh, yes, you're definitely. I have 2. Actually, one is literally I just had a little baby girl.
Wow.
So yeah. But speaking of your wife, so you said your wife, Karina. I actually got a chance and had the pleasure of chatting with her recently, which is a great conversation. So you guys are like, now she focuses on social media, and I know that you are the webinar guy and social media. So you guys are like the dynamic digital marketing duo. Is that it?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very, very blessed that my wife and I are on the journey together, and we met on the journey as well. It was in 2011. We met at an event. It was a JV partner of mine who introduced me to his sister after she studied my course, and basically that was Karina. So she was blown away that somebody else was on the journey as well at the same time. And yeah, it was really, really something I was really looking for, because so many times we see, Adrian, with couples that, when you're trying to start a business, or when you're running a business or doing a particular hobby and your partner's not on the journey, it can still work. And certainly a lot of my friends have that, but I really wanted to be selfish and have someone that was on the journey with me. And, very blessed to have to met Karina and that we shared a journey together, because we're able to support each other and able to bounce ideas off each other. It's not like we don't know our industries and stuff. So
right.
It's really, really a big blessing. So very fortunate.
Now that's great. You just mentioned a couple of great talking points that I want to dive in a little more. You mentioned the importance of couples kind of sharing the same journey, being on the same page, especially when it comes to, building businesses and being an entrepreneur. But speaking of journey, Stephen, why don't you take us back? And I always like to start off the conversation on the podcast with personal stories, because we're all about storytelling and the power of storytelling, and people love stories. Can you just briefly take us back to your personal journey, even kind of before you met Karina, on like your story and that transformational moment that led you to what you're doing now and that esteemed title of webinar expert?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I spent 13 years in the music business when I left high school, and I worked in jobs, so I was always familiar with starting your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I was always in business because the music business is so many moving parts, and, I always took it very seriously. And 13 years in there, and eventually made it to Los Angeles, and they said you've come at the worst time. It was 2002 to 2005, and basically at that point I'd spent all my money, life savings, and borrowed money and whatever, and realized that the music business was collapsing, but another industry was emerging, and that was the online space. And I thought, I wasn't very good with computers, and when I went back, I said, I'm going to go back to Australia. I'm sick of being broke in LA, living at the 99-cent store. And ramen noodles and garbanzo beans and all that.
Right.
And basically I said, I'm going to build a business and invest in real estate. And that's the Robert Kiyosaki formula. I read it in his book many years before. And so I went back to Australia and basically, got started. I talked to a few different website guys and nothing eventuated. And it wasn't until 2008 when I got a job in real estate as a real estate investment company. And my boss's internet presence was really bad. It was really lacking. And I looked at his competitors and I said, look at your competitors. Look at their online. Look at their website. Look at this. And I said, you have to find someone that can do this for you. And he said, well, we don't have the money and we don't have the person. So I basically took it upon myself to go to a seminar in 2008. I think it was April 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there to try and help my boss's business and got the idea for some ideas for my own businesses as well at the same time. So 6 months after that, I'd helped my boss do some stuff, and I quit my job and ran my first webinar in December 2008 and made $600. So I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I've tried to build some websites and they didn't make any money, but I did this webinar because my mentor told me to.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know what a webinar was. So, it was basically, I had 15 people on the webinar and sold two products at like $297. So it was like $594. And I was like, wow, if I could just do this once a week or every day, this would be great. So I just sort of started making $4,000, $10,000, $25,000 in a webinar, started doing JV webinars, automated webinars, $100,000, and then my clients that I started coaching, basically I had a vet. He made over $300,000 in his practice in the first year, sold his practice and went full-time as the webinar vet. He's still in existence to this day, over $1 million business called the webinarvet.com. And
wow.
I had pilots making $1 million. All these different people started making all this money. And then I was like, wow, this is like the best strategy ever. It's so easy. And I'm getting all these great testimonials. So I kind of really started looking at other ways to leverage, because the students that I had started making more money than me. And here I was coaching and having a good time, like making more money than I've ever made in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, but I'm stuck in the business, because what I didn't have, right, I had the work ethic. What I didn't have was the mindset of a big business owner. I had the mindset of a self-employed person. So I was doing everything myself for the first 2 years. And while I made, I think I made $184,000 in the first year, I made over $500,000 the second year. I realized that I can't get to 2 million, 3 million, 10 million if I'm going to be the person that I'm being now. So I looked for different books and resources that I could find, and Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I think I read some Jay Abraham books that really helped me put some practical things in place and created systems, and now I have a team of people that sort of manage the business for me, and I focus now on taking a percentage of strategic partnerships businesses and helping those grow with our system as well. So instead of just teaching people, we teach people and take a percentage of certain programs that we have. So that's been probably the quick evolution.
Wow. No, that is some evolution, especially coming from the music business. You said right around 2002 or so. When you started before 2002, was that when you?
Oh yeah, I started the music business in Australia when it was most dead it was ever been. It was 1991, 1992. I started in the music business.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still in high school.
Okay, yeah, I'm a big music junkie. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a big music junkie, and I'm a big fan of the art form. But I'm also a student of the history. So so the music business between 2002 2005, then you got into, you said real estate around 2008. Was that your first kind of deep foray into the online space around that 2008 time when you're in real estate?
Yeah. It started in end of 2007 when I was looking into it for my boss. And I started tinkering with his database, and I bought one shopping cart, which was an autoresponder system, and a shopping cart and an affiliate program, and was trying to figure out how those pieces work together. And it just took a couple of months. Then I sat back and I thought, well, I don't know if I'm doing this right, and I'm sure someone's done it before who's successful that can at least tell me. I don't mind doing the hard work as long as I know that the system works. And I knew there were systems working. I knew people were making money online, but I knew I wasn't smart enough to work it out myself. So I basically just said a silent prayer to the universe. I said, God, please just send me the best. I know there's a lot of rubbish out there. Send me the best. And then within 2 weeks, I think it was in 2008 now, within 2 weeks, I got a friend of mine who came in, who was mentoring my boss. He came in, he said, you got to read this book. And it was called How to Make Money While You Sleep by a guy called Brett McFall.
That's a pretty good title. I would say.
It's a great title. It's a very easy read, and I just took it. And then within half an hour after that, another guy called me and who was from our club and said, "Hey, I've just bought this book. You want to come along to a seminar, and there's two seminars in this book and whatever." And I was like, oh no, another seminar that I got to go to. It's a 2-day and whatever. And something in my head just said, you asked for it, just go along. So I went along. I sat in the front. I took like 10 people with me, my friend, my sister, her boyfriend. I invited everyone. I just said, come along, check this out. There's got to be something in this online stuff. We've got to make money somehow. And anyway, so we checked it out, and I think I signed up for a $25,000 coaching program to speak to him directly, because I thought $25,000 is a drop in the ocean to the sorts of money that he's made. And if I've got any problems, I can just ask him, right? So I borrowed the money. I didn't have the money. I borrowed it. I think I got a mortgage against one of the properties, and everyone said, are you crazy? Like, you don't know what you're doing or whatever. And it was the best investment I ever made. I mean, I've made over $10 million to date, and made over, students and webinars we've run. We've done over 50 million in sales, and that's just money that we've tracked, that people have reported to us. And so it was the best investment I ever made, because he's the one who said, become the webinar guy. I couldn't have figured out myself. I just started copying him in what he was doing. And then one of the strategies that I had was the webinar strategy, because no one else was talking about it. And he said, look, you're doing a very good job of copying everything I do. Right. And I said, well, can you promote me? And he said, no, I can't, because you're copying me. I said, well, what can I do? And he said, that 5th step that you talk about, that webinar step, he said, you should just focus on that and teach people how to do webinars and become the webinar guy. And I said, but it's so easy. I said, who would pay for this? Like, who would pay someone to teach them how to do a webinar? You get on there and you talk about what you know, and then you offer a product. And he said, no, you be the webinar guy. And I was like, you sure? Yeah, the webinar guy. He goes, I can promote you if you're the webinar guy. I'm like, all right, I'll be the webinar guy then. That's great. Right? And my goal when I started was just to help people make money. That was my goal. I love helping people make money, and to do it talking about their passion, talking about things they're good at, it's just a gift. Like, I just sort of fell into it, and it's just been a great ride ever since. It's just such a good strategy that it's a win-win. It's great value. You can sell great expensive products, and you can automate them, and it's just amazing business amazing strategy to use.
Wow, you mentioned a couple of great, I think, lessons for our audience. Just very powerful lessons. For one, you're not shy of investing in yourself when it comes to. education, investing. You mentioned some great prolific authors that you really got into. Stephen Covey. I'm sure many of us know Stephen and Jay Abraham. And then you mentioned, which I think is a second and probably one of the most important lessons when it comes to starting a business, is that you niched down. I mean, you really narrowed down and became, with the help of your we say mentor.
Yeah.
Focus on webinars, because you said that was the fifth step, was webinars. I'm assuming you went through 4 other steps when it comes to
to internet businesses, and it's
Right.
stuff that's much harder, like search engine optimization and affiliate marketing and these other strategies that they're good strategies, but they were just much harder to do. They work.
Right.
A lot of people start with affiliate marketing. They go, oh, that's good, I'll promote someone else's product. But I realized quickly that, hey, I'm competing against really smart guys who are good at getting traffic, and it's like I was really average at it, and making only a few dollars, because the other great book that I read was the 80-20 of marketing. That was just not long ago. I got the audio version, but 20% of the affiliates make 80% of the money. I would say maybe even fewer than that. 10% or 5% make 95% of the money. So, it was great because webinars are so easy to do, and so you don't have to have a product ready. You don't have to have you don't have to have a big list. You can sell more expensive stuff. You can sell it for 10 times the price. If you've got an ebook, you can turn that ebook into a webinar series that you sell at the end of a free webinar, and you don't even have to deliver it if no one buys it. It's just overall, it's just fantastic.
Okay, so so this is good. This is good stuff. So let's get into those specific tactics and steps when it comes to webinars. So I really want to focus on this whole webinar thing, because me personally, I'm about to really up my game when it comes to webinars. I'm a big fan. I've participated and watched many webinars. I've gotten a lot of valuable information. Yeah. But let's talk about your company. It's called 10X Effect, and is that pretty much the arm under where you're doing all of this webinar training and speaking, and is that pretty much the premise of the company? It's focused on webinars?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Well, it's not just webinars, because as we evolve a business, like we have a $1 million webinar blueprint. So we basically kick it off with, I always start every single business with a webinar. I never start a web business with a website. So as soon as a student comes, and I say we choose a target market, we come up with a marketing hook, a great title for the webinar, and then straight away we put a webinar together of an outline of what they're going to talk about, and then an offer as well at the end. So we help them create an outline of their offer, but they say, but I haven't made the course yet. How do I sell it? I go, don't worry, if it's not ready, we just sell the outline and you deliver it later. You deliver it live to the people who buy. And I find a lot of people struggle to get their head around that process, but that's how your customers would prefer to buy from you. They would rather buy it today and you deliver it next week.
Wow.
Simply because they get you on the call with them.
Right.
I've surveyed audiences. I've spoken around the world. I've gone also to prove that this is the fastest way to make money. I actually went around the world twice, in Dubai, London, Los Angeles, Colorado. We went to New Zealand. We went in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. We went all over Australia, all over Cyprus, Switzerland, everywhere. And I picked random people from the audience on the first day of our event. I helped them come up with an idea. I put the PowerPoint together, outlined what the course was going to be, and we launched them on the third day. We launched them to our database, to the World Wide Web, and we did a webinar live in front of the audience. And out of 25 cities, we made money 22 times. 3 times we didn't make any money, but we made anything from $2,000 in 60 minutes to $23,000 in as little as 60 or 90 minutes. The average we made was about $8,000 to $10,000 live on stage for the person who got picked, and the audience voted for the person. So we would get the whole audience would come up, whoever wanted to participate. They'll say what they will talk about on a webinar. The audience voted, and then I worked with that person, and that was really an eye-opener. For me, I wanted to teach the audience to say, this is how it's done, this is how you do it, and this is why it's better to do it this way. Because I said to the audience, if you had a choice of buying a course okay, from someone who was delivering a free webinar to you, and they said, here, you can have the videos or the DVDs today, or you get to speak to me every week on a webinar. I'll deliver it to you, and then you can ask me questions at the end. I said, who would rather have the questions answered live on the call? Then you get the replays afterwards. And 99% of the audience would prefer to have it that way rather than the course pre-ready to go, because they got to interact with the person who designed the course. They could ask questions.
Wow.
So it was just, that's how the audience wants it.
Right.
You know, and people, they get in their own way of success. They say, oh, I have to make the product perfect. I have to do this, and I have to write the book, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, why would you write a book which you can sell for $30 when we can put the same 8 chapters into a webinar series and sell it for $300? The minimum price I sell a course for on a webinar is $300. We sell courses for $300, $500, $1,000, even $5. One of my business sells a $5,000 webinar series. So, you know, create it after you've sold it. Okay, don't waste time. That's what I always tell people.
That is a pretty big jump for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. I know I've heard of that. I've heard of the value of doing that from other people I've talked to, and you've just underscored it even more. But I'm assuming that in order to do that, to have a webinar platform, to sell it before you create it, you have to have some systems in place, I'm assuming. Or what is the average turnaround time from the webinar broadcast or what have you to, okay, you generated X number of sales and X number of customers from the webinar? How much lead time does it take that's efficient from the point of the webinar until you have to deliver that product?
Yeah, I think what I try to do is deliver it within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Start the course within 2 weeks. Remember, let's say we sell an 8-part webinar program. You've got 8 chapters in your book. We take each chapter, we're going to turn that into a webinar for people who buy. So if I do a webinar today and I make even 2 sales, I'll send an email to those people with a scheduled webinar from GoToWebinar for the next 8 weeks. That's a special private link that I'll create. It'll take me 2 minutes, and I'll set it up for 8 weeks, and I'll email the people, thanks for buying our blah, blah, blah course. We're going to do this and this and this. Here's my email address if you need me. If you want to book one of your bonus coaching calls or here's your bonuses. Register for this webinar right now, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Now, I only have to have module 1 ready. Okay, so, and people say, how long do the modules need to be? I said, as short as possible in order for you to get the message across to me that I need. Because when someone buys a course, they're not buying you, they're not buying the coaching, they're not buying the videos and the DVDs and the 462, audio podcast things that you've got and whatever. They're not buying that. They're buying the end result. So as quickly as you can, explain to them what they need to understand and then what they need to do. So my modules go something like this. Hi, welcome to module 1 of the Webinar Magic program. Today we're going to talk about your introduction. Here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn how to create a good introduction. You're going to learn about what elements you need in your introduction, and then I'm going to get you to do some homework. Okay, so bang, I get into it and I say, here's 10 minutes of information. At the end, I go, all right, here's what you now know. You now know how an introduction works. Here's a template for you. I want you to fill it in. Here's how you fill it in. You get this Word document and you answer this question. If you don't know what to write here, leave it blank. Here's the next part. And I just basically give them some homework to do at the end of each module. Okay. And by the 3rd module, they've put together a webinar in an hour and a half. So if I can do that in an hour and a half, why would I take 6 hours to do that? So the modules can be anything from 5 minutes to maximum, I say, 90 minutes. If it's any longer than that, after 2 or 3 modules, people won't watch your course anymore. The best courses are easy to follow, short and sharp and to the point. And they get the person results. I'm all about results. It doesn't matter about anything else. Quality doesn't matter for me, how bad my audio quality is or whatever. It's all about results. How fast can I get this student who just invested in a program with us, how fast can we get them from where they are to success? What's the best way to do that? And that's always been my focus. And by me being on the call with them, that gives them more chance of success. By me, giving them a recording afterwards, that gives them ability to come back to it later. Because most people will never watch a course all the way through. I
Right.
mean, and this is like a shock to people. Like they go, all of those courses people buy. I said, hang on, it's not just courses. People buy books they never read. They buy clothes they never wear. They buy food they throw away. They do buy courses that sit on the shelf. It's every area of our life. Human beings, we waste stuff. But, that doesn't stop me from trying to get the best results for the people who buy your product. And then you say, all right, I'll see you next week for module 2, and make sure you've done your homework for module 1. And that's basically it. So over the next 8 weeks, you've got 8 weeks to record that, and you only need to be one module ahead. And most people know what they're talking about in order to be able to sell something. So you wouldn't be able to sell a product if you didn't know how to talk about. So obviously they know the content for module 1. Like if you were doing a podcasting product, for example, Adrian, you would know what module 1 is, right? It's
Right.
like you know it. I could throw you on right now and just say, tell me what you would cover in module 1 of your course, and you would be able to just go for it. And that's the best products when they're raw, when they're when they just come from the heart, and you're just giving all your best stuff. And here's a great thing as well. You can always go back and re-record it if you thought it was bad. You can always go and redo your course as well anytime for future customers who buy, and you only have to do it live the first time. So you take the first students through, and that's it.
So much good stuff. I'm like taking mental notes and trying to jot stuff down. Okay, let's quit talking about online courses, and they are huge right now. I mean, online education has totally, to me, not dismantled, but it's affecting the educational system tremendously. And like I think LinkedIn just bought lynda.com for like $1.5 billion.
Yeah,
which is huge. So online courses. So you mentioned the phrase watch courses. Formats for online courses. Are there any ones that you prefer versus the other? Like, what do you recommend? Audio courses, slides, video? Doesn't matter. Can you just
webinars?
Webinar. Got it.
Yeah, webinar course. Yeah, absolutely.
Webinar courses. Okay.
Yeah, just deliver a course via a series of webinars.
Okay.
To run it live and then record them, or pre-record them. It's up to you. But I'd prefer you run them live because you get to interact and mingle, and especially if it's the first time. If you're doing it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You should run it because the group will tell you what's good, right? People spend months and months and years, creating courses, putting them onto DVD and printing 5,000 copies. They haven't sold one yet, but they've got them in the garage. They sell their first version, and people and they get a customer email that says, "Hey, do you talk about how to choose a topic for a podcast?" And you're like, "Oh my God, I totally forgot to write to put that in there. I didn't realize people were so dumb, and that they would need that I would need to explain that." And it's like, and you find out after you've already printed and recorded the whole thing. I just coached a manager of 3 world number 1 tennis players on how to put his first webinar together. The current number 1, he managed the current number 1 tennis player as well, Novak Djokovic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, he said, "What about the course?" He was doing this whole thing on mindset. He's an amazing guy, and just the stories that he tells me about the tennis players and the parallels between business and high performance athletes and how they are and what they need to do to be successful. And every business owner needs to hear his webinar. And I'll tell him to jump on a podcast with you one day. But basically, he said to me, "Steve, I'm worried about the course. I know you said deliver it after, but I'm going to pre-record it all." And I said, "It's up to you, but I don't recommend you doing that." And he said, "Okay, no worries. I take it on board, but I'm still going to do it." So he went and recorded them all, and then he came back and he came back to me like a month later because now he's ready to launch it, and we're going to be launching him to our database because he's really good. And I said to him, I said, "Okay, so your course is ready and whatever." He said, "Actually, Steve," he goes, "what I was thinking was I'm going to run it live." I said, "Yeah, that's what I told you to do before, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Aren't you happy with your recordings?" He said, "No, I'm not happy with them. They don't have the energy there." Because there's something about it when you're talking for real to someone, there's a different energy in your voice. There's a different tonality. There's that bit of excitement, that butterflies in your stomach when you're going to go live. That's what makes us human. That in show business they call it excitement, but most people call it butterflies or nerves or something like that. But it's excitement. It's what makes us, be alive. I remember for the first 2 years, whenever I'd launch a webinar, whether it was to the students or whether it was to a new list that I created, I would have butterflies going in my stomach. I was like, nervous as.
Mm-hmm.
because it's just that excitement of, it's live, anything can happen.
Right.
That's what people thrive on. But some people run from it, and consequently, those people are normally known as engineers and project managers, and they like to map everything out perfectly and have it synchronized. And no matter what I tell them, they don't do it that way because it's not going to be to perfection. And most of them, unfortunately, that I work with that are that way, they never ever produce a finished product because their perfectionism gets in the way. But creative types, oh really, I can do it on the fly, oh fantastic, blah 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 blah, and they just go ahead and do it and make money. And the engineers and the project managers are still planning and mapping out their campaigns. So it's definitely a mindset shift that needs to happen.
Wow. Mindset shift is definitely true, especially when you talk about the live versus automated. I know there are a lot of automated webinars that have been in the market. I've witnessed both live and automated, but as you mentioned, and you perfectly articulated the power and importance of live, just that authenticity, that realness, that just that engagement. You can't beat it. Let's really, I mean, this is so much good value. Let's really speak to that Gen X small business owner, because I think I know webinars are a great tool in addition to that entire online marketing portfolio. But let's say that's this 42-year-old business owner or aspiring business owner, that somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur, right? They've heard about webinars, they're familiar with them, they participated in a couple of them. So Stephen, how would you define in simple terms, like what exactly is a webinar? I mean, we've talked a lot about it, but let's say there's that entrepreneur that totally doesn't get it versus, let's say, a seminar. Is it an online seminar? What exactly is a webinar, and how can that Gen X entrepreneur who is trying to start a business, they're not sure how they're balancing a family life, they want to make the most money, because you mentioned some great numbers here. You generated, 1K, 10K, 150K per webinar and beyond. What would you say to that small business owner about the power of webinars, how to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a webinar, in case you've been living under a rock, it's a web seminar. It's a seminar on the web.
Right.
Normally, it's used with a PowerPoint presentation, but these days, thanks to Google Hangouts and even GoToWebinar now, you can show your face if you want to. But I've got a face for PowerPoint. I prefer to show PowerPoint, and a lot of people say that PowerPoint is boring and death by PowerPoint. Well, the only PowerPoint presentation is a PowerPoint presentation that is to the wrong target audience. And if someone writes to you and says, "Oh, your PowerPoint was terrible," or whatever, they weren't interested in the topic. Because someone who's interested in the topic of podcasting, for example, and how to get access to the billion subscribers in podcasting, get the traffic and the sales and the authority that you want thanks to podcasting, is listening to what you're saying and hanging on every word, not looking at the slide going, "Geez, that's an ugly portrait photo of Adrian," or you know what I mean, could have picked a better family shot or whatever. People are engrossed into the content who are interested in it. So I still use PowerPoint, and to make it even more credible, what I'm saying, I've made my PowerPoints black and white now. Whenever I put together a new webinar, not my old ones, whenever I do a new webinar, I don't even brand the slides. I make white background, black text, and if you want to throw in there some images, great, but they're not buying the images, they're buying the end result of what you're teaching them.
Right.
And so always deliver loads of great information in a structure. Always structure your webinars into 3, 5, or 7 steps. Have a little 5 or 10 minute intro. The bulk of your presentation must be great content that the person can take away and start to apply. And the last 10 minutes, if you're doing 60-minute webinar, you offer your product or service and talk about the benefits in that. So if I was starting from scratch again, Adrian, I wouldn't become an expert in any one niche. If I was starting and I had a family and kids, first of all, if you're in a business or starting a business and you've got kids and you've got a job, congratulations, because I don't know how people could build a business while they've got a job and they've got kids. It's like, my hat's off to you. I struggled. I struggled as a single guy looking after my, schizophrenic mother. My mum had mental illness from when I was 10 years old, and we've been looking after her ever since. And I was struggling to build my business and look after her. And I was like, man, how are people with kids and a job doing this? This is like crazy. So, so basically, what I would do is firstly figure out how to put together a webinar in the structure of a 60-minute presentation, and then I would go to businesses who aren't doing webinars, and I would say to them, or experts. Let's say you've got right now I'm doing this with my sister. I'm telling her to go. She's right into the spiritual niche, and I said go to spiritual practitioners who are burned out, who are in their practices, who are only seeing clients face to face. They're selling one-on-one. They're getting paid per treatment, and they're burning out. They're exhausted. They want to grow their business. They know they need to be online, but they don't know how. Go to those guys and say, listen, I'll help you put a webinar together, put your information into a webinar, we'll email it to the small database you have. If we make any sales, you give me 50% of whatever we make. No obligation to you. And that's it. And go and do that for 10 of them. And out of 10 of them, 2 of them will emerge as amazing speakers, amazing salespeople with amazing products, and they'll be happy to give you 50% of the online business component in order for you to manage that part for them and just facilitate. So all you need to do is record the webinars, help them put it together, send the emails, count the sales, they deliver the product, they talk to the customers, they put the information together. You just handle the back end, the internet marketing side. And now I have 5 businesses doing that and make anything from $5,000 to $100,000 a month.
Wow.
Across those businesses. And every one of us can have, I call it the medical center model. In a medical center, there's 2 types of ways to make money. You can be a doctor where you see patients and you get paid to see the patients, or you could be the medical center owner where you rent the space to different doctors and collect a piece of the percentage or the rent from those doctors. And which is the best business model? Which is the business model with leverage? Which is the business model with lifestyle? It's the guy who owns the medical center that's got the lifestyle. He doesn't have to be there every day at work seeing patients. And if a doctor leaves, he can get another doctor in there. And we do the same thing with webinars. You help an expert build their brand off the back of launching them on a webinar series, and then you help them get into podcasts to get more traffic and authority, and then you help them do JVs, and you help them manage their social media, and all the costs that you incur come out of the business before you split 50-50. For example, I'm here in France. A business partner of mine has been running some workshops for his clients and some new clients as well. He's generated over Boogs. How much has Sean generated? Boogs? How much has Sean generated in the last 2 weeks? About over $200,000 in sales while we've been overseas, because that's leverage, getting other people to do the speaking and the selling. So you only have to learn one thing. The biggest challenge you're going to have with trying to build an internet business is learning the technology, learning how an internet business runs from the back end, but then also coming up with the idea, okay, and the results and all of that. It's too difficult, but no one talks about this. Everyone says to you, yeah, become the expert. Yeah, do. But then most people can't do both. It's very difficult. So if I was starting again from scratch, Adrian, I'd look for someone who's an expert and I'd plug them into my platform. And if I was talking to a Gen X person who wants to make money, I would say find some people who've got some knowledge, some expertise, some experience, who get results for their customers, who are passionate about working with their customers, who just want to get their message out there, their healing, their modality, or whatever it is that they do out there. And they don't want to do any online marketing. They just want you to handle that and basically help them plug in. That's what I would do.
Wow. All right. So Gen X Amplified audience, you just heard the blueprint for how to dominate through webinars from Steve and Essa. That was great. Find someone who's passionate, who already has a framework in place, who has the experience. That's actually intentional. I like that. Experience for you Gen Xers. That's smart. That's really smart. And quickly, for those who just may not know, when you say JV, what do you mean by that?
I just mean like, a JV is something, the best way to get traffic. Because people say, how do I get traffic to a webinar?
Right.
And the number one source, the 80% of our cash flow comes from JV webinars. And that's simply finding someone who's already got a database that they can mail out for you or your expert. So for example, Adrian, you come to me and you go, Steve, I know you've got a database. I've got this great podcast product. I'd love for you to promote me to your database, and I'll give you 50% of whatever we make.
Right.
I'll send an email out tomorrow and invite them to your webinar. We'll get 500, 600, 1,000 people registered, depends on the topic. And then you turn up, do the webinar to my list, and we split 50-50. And all I do for my business partners is go and find them more JV partners. And I've got a whole list of JV partners, that I have, that I do business with, that we promote each other. And we share a 50% stake,
Right.
So sometimes it's 50%, sometimes it's sometimes you promote me and I'll promote you, but sometimes I'll just promote you. I'm just looking for more stuff. There's people out there with big databases looking for things to promote that are good products, that are solid, solid presenter, that's someone who's going to deliver to their customers and pay them a percentage of the sales, and they'll promote you every day of the week.
Wow. All right, everyone. Didn't I just say in the intro that he is known as the Make Money with Webinars expert? I think all right, Stephen, you just showed everybody, why they call you that. This has been great, man. This has been a very inspirational, educational, and valuable conversation, I must say, first and foremost. But before I let you go, and I want to wrap up here, and there's two questions I want to get to that I always ask all of my guests. But quickly about that format, because you mentioned a few minutes ago, GoToWebinar, Google Hangouts on Air, and I've seen both versions. And I've heard, though, that HOA, Hangouts on Air from Google, sometimes can be a little buggy. Is there any preference you prefer, or?
Yeah, I prefer GoToWebinar.
Okay.
It's a much easier system to use and navigate for people as well.
Right.
And yeah, it's a lot less buggy than Google Hangouts.
Okay.
You get what you pay for.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So Stephen, here are two closing questions I asked everyone at the end of the show. We're going to have a little fun and then drop some more value for my audience. So first, if there was a song, and I couldn't wait to ask you this because you're a music guy, but all right, so here we go. If there was a song that would play every time you enter a room or when you walk down the street that fits the story of you and the brand of Stephen Essa, what song would that be? What would be your own personal theme song?
Oh, I think it would be Vanilla Ice, Ice, Ice Baby, because I still know the words.
Okay, you have to drop a little.
All right, I'll do it with an Australian accent, because Australians rapping,
that's even
and
better.
There's a lot of Australian rap. It's Australian rap sounds terrible. I love respect to Australian rappers, but Americans do it better. But it goes like this: all right, stop, collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. I better stop, or the podcast is gonna not flow.
All right, that was hot.
Oh, come on. I mean,
hey, that was pretty. That was fun.
Isn't it crazy, Australians rapping?
I got the Australian version of Ice Ice Baby on Gen X Amplified. That is a world premiere.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. Don't tell any of my heavy metal friends.
Man, I love that. That was so cool, man. All right, and I don't even know how I can beat that. I'm gonna try to ask this last question, but that was so cool. Okay, so Stephen, if there was one specific tool or resource, it could be a book. You dropped actually some great titles for some other books earlier, but it could be a book, a website, or an app that you could recommend, particularly to that Xer looking to start a business, to build an online business, to build their personal brand. What would it be?
I think, Jesus, it's so hard to pick one. But I think if someone is just purely at the beginning and they're looking to get started, then I think a great book is The Laptop Millionaire. by Mark Anastasi. He's my brother-in-law, but that book is a phenomenal book because it gives you an overview of different strategies. He talks about, I wrote the chapter virtually on webinars for him. He's got, affiliate marketing. So it's an overview that'll explain a lot of different ways to make money online and different case studies of people who've done it, as well as resources where you can actually get access to learning more as well. So that's a great book if you're just getting started with looking into this space, I'd say. Yeah.
You said so it's the Laptop Millionaire. I think it's I just saw it here. How Anyone Can Escape the 9 to 5 and Make Money Online by Mark Anastasi.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds great. Well, it's been a wonderful conversation, man. It's been a blast. It's been fun. It's been informative. I think you really helped out our audience here. And, when it comes to webinars, there are many ways you can dominate. We can make money. And you've laid out some great tools and rules and just tips on how to do that. So, Stephen, it's been a blast. Tell everyone, before I let you go, tell everybody the best way they can find out more about you, how they can connect with you, and how they can just dominate through webinars.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I've put together a webinar actually that rolls you through the entire process, and it shows you how to create a webinar, how they're much better than anything else. Also, I do a demonstration on the webinar with someone, so you actually get to see the skeleton of putting a presentation together. It's a person, a random person. So I record it, automate it, shows you how to automate a webinar. So you do the work once, you get paid again and again, and talk about more in detail the medical center model. And I've put all that into a webinar, funnily enough, and you can get access to that. It's tons of value, and you can access it at steveessa.com. That's STEVEESSA.com.
Awesome. SteveEssa.com. Thank you so much, Steve, for spending time with us to Xing it out, and for the Ice Ice Baby rap with was a cherry on top. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. All the best, man.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
You too. Yes, that was Stephen Essa, the webinar expert. See, that's why I love doing this show. This is exactly why I love doing this show, because having these valuable and informative conversations with these wonderful Gen Xers that are really crushing it in business. I mean, he is crushing it with webinars. I actually feel like we just listened to a webinar masterclass, right? Great stuff. So I really want to thank Stephen for spending time with us on the podcast, and also for that that special rendition of Ice Ice Baby along with the Australian accent, right? That was good stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and you can also go over to genxamplified.com/014 for the show notes. And please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done already over at iTunes, or you can also go to Stitcher Radio for all you Android users out there. But please go over and subscribe. And if you're over in iTunes, please give us a rating and a review. That really helps us gain more awareness and provide more content for more people like you. So I thank you for listening in. And also, as I always like to mention, you can check out all of our previous episodes of Gen X Amplified whenever you want on demand, such as our previous episode number 13 with Lee Caraher, where we talked all about millennials. Now, that is a very, very, very important subject for Gen Xers as leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs, because in this new media marketplace, you must, and I mean you must, know how to work with all generations, especially those magnificent millennials, as I like to call them. So as always, until the next episode, please go and define your greatness, define your powerful story, amplify that story so you can maximize your impact as leaders in business and life. Thank you so much, and all the best to your success. Take care.